Great to be back with you for another day of VBS. I'm Pastor Sammy, and I want to tell you a little bit about me in video games. See, I love the thrill of beating a villain or a boss in a video game. One of my favorite bosses of all time is Donkey Kong from the original video game released in 1981. See, in that game, you play as Mario and you try to maneuver him through a construction site, avoiding fire, holes, and barrels thrown by Donkey Kong. Your goal each level is to rescue Pauline from Donkey Kong. When I played the original Donkey Kong, I noticed that if you count 1, 2, jump, when you see a barrel coming, it helped you successfully clear the barrel each and every time. I'm not sure if this was a hack, but I mess with it over and over again. And I have to admit, there are moments that I doubted if it worked. But I had so much success, I started to depend on it and trusted my counting. This trust helped me in a tough situation in defeating Donkey Kong. And in today's story, we see Peter and the rest of the disciples having to trust Jesus in a tough situation. They were also afraid and even doubted too. Listen to this. People followed Jesus everywhere he went. They wanted to hear him teach about God. After a long day of teaching near the Sea of Galilee, Jesus said goodbye to the crowds and told his disciples to go ahead of him in a boat. Jesus then went up to a mountain to pray. Late at night, it says the disciples' boat was far from shore. The wind began to blow and the water grew rough and choppy. The waves beat against their boat while the winds pushed harder and harder against them. Very early in the morning, the disciples saw something coming towards them. It was Jesus walking on top of the water as if it were solid ground. The disciples, though, cried out in fear, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus called out to them, "Don't be afraid, I am Jesus." Peter said, "If it is really you, Jesus, tell me to walk on top of the water to you." So Jesus said to him, "Come." Peter climbed out of the boat and began walking on the water towards Jesus. How amazing is that? But then Peter began to notice how strong the wind was getting and he got scared. He began to sink into the dark, stormy water. Peter cried out, "Lord, save me!" Immediately, Jesus reached out and grabbed Peter and pulled him back up on top of the water. Jesus asked Peter, "Why did you doubt me? Is your faith really so small?" As soon as Jesus and Peter got back into the boat, the wind stopped. Everything was calm. Not only could Jesus walk on water, but he also could control the wind and the waves. The disciples worshiped Jesus and said, "It's true, you really are the Son of God." See, that amazing story came from Matthew 4:22-33 in the Bible. Peter and the disciples became very afraid when the wind and the waves pushed hard against their boat. When Peter began to walk on water, he grew afraid of the waves' conditions and began to sink. Jesus pulled Peter up from the water and protected him from his own doubt. See, students, we may also run into tough situations like in today's story. But even when we doubt God and who Jesus is in those tough situations, Jesus is still trustworthy. We can learn through his word to trust him even when we doubt. It is okay to have doubts, but remember that God loves you no matter what. How do I know that? Because God created you. He knows everything about you and sent his son to earth as a way to make things right between you and him. We will all go through scary, hard, or bad circumstances. Jesus may not always change those circumstances the way that we want him to, but we can always trust that he will always do what is best. When you are in those situations, maybe you just need to count like I did with Donkey Kong. 1, 2, and then jump into Jesus' arms of trust. Jesus said it himself. If God takes care of the birds and the plants, you can guarantee he's going to take care of you too. I'll see you guys tomorrow.